Well, welcome back, everybody. Our next presenter, Michael Ross, is right now building a O-scale layout in the Appalachians early fall. He's been a member of the NMRA for over 60 years. A lot of visitors to his Virginia layout often comment that he builds very realistic trees. So obviously, this presentation is going to be on tree building. Take it away, Michael.
Well, thank you, Kelly and Gordy. We might as well go right to the tape I prepared. 39 minutes and then a few minutes for questions and comments and help from me afterwards.
Memorizing the poem by Joyce Kilmer, I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. And remember how it ends, poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. And that has engendered all sorts of parodies. For example, I think that I shall never see a billboard as lovely as a tree. Indeed, unless the billboards fall, I'll never see a tree at all, which is why we don't put a lot of billboards on our layouts. But to paraphrase the ending in a different way, model trees are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. So I'm Michael Ross in Fort Worth, Texas, member of Division 1 Cowcatcher Division of the Lone Star region. I've been around the NMRA about 60 years. Just a bit of history, a few of the old timers may remember Bob Bast, who was the NMRA office manager, who when I was a teenager would drive me to division meetings up in the Ohio area. I had an HO layout while I was in high school, had a Western theme and therefore not a lot of trees. And now I'm building sort of my dream layout, Appalachian themed, the Virginian Railroad. And so we're going to need a lot of trees. Now, purists might say that the trees I'm going to show you how I'm making here don't necessarily match the Virginian. That's okay. The overall effect is I think pretty good, satisfies me, and after all, there's only so much time and effort. It's interesting though that the Appalachians are a north-south oriented mountain range, and so as the ice ages came and went, the different species of trees were able to migrate, if you will, north and south. It's a very diverse area, and I think it's possible that all the different types of trees you see here are entirely appropriate. Those north-south temperate zone deciduous forests, believe it or not, are rare in China, Japan, the Caucasus of Russia, and that's it. So the multiple trees are one of the things that many of the visitors to the Virginian layout talk about, and so I got talked into showing you how I manufacture so many trees. Now the goal is lots of trees, lots and lots of trees. Already there are hundreds of trees on the layout, and my goal is that they cost no more than $1, and preferably a lot less, and that they be reasonably good looking trees. Like I say, I'm not an expert on trees, but the overall effect is good, I think. There's only so much time and so much money, so think of that. Let's keep trees at minimum cost. Now the classic thing that you always see is the puffball trees, the fiber foam covered with leaves, and I have never been successful at making puffball trees. I never liked the look of them, and one problem is of course the fall colors. You can't just put puffballs on and make the hillside one cover. I'm probably going to have to use puffballs at some of the more distant parts of the scenery, and maybe someone at the comments later can educate me how to make better trees. I'm going to try to cover the materials I use, how I use the Scenic Express Super Tree material, and the various natural and manufactured things I use for trees. So let's start with a material list. And the first thing I want to show you is stone. Whether it's cast like this or real stone. Stone is a necessary material because wherever you've got stones or outcroppings, you don't have to put trees. So consider stones as one of your important critical elements. Second thing is some foam, just cheap foam with some holes punched in it because that's what you're going to put your trees into. And some gloves. You'll need some gloves to keep your hands from getting dirty. Take your watch off because we're going to be making something of a mess here. Now the key materials are, number one, this on my handful, is the Super Tree material sold by Scenic Express. Now you call Jim at Scenic Express, he'll be a little vague about what Super Tree material really is. It's apparently something called reindeer moss or caribou lichen, grows in Scandinavia for short periods of the year and is harvested and brought over here. You can buy it in small packs or buy it in bulk. Buy a bulk pack like this. Yes, it's a bit over $100, but it's 300 trees. So goal is to keep your costs less than $1 a tree. Another important basic material is Pro Stick. Now, you can use all sorts of spray adhesives. I also get this from Scenic Express. The advantage of this stuff is that it dries absolutely clear and dull and fairly rapid and holds your leaves well. You'll also want some cheap hairspray. You can get these 3 packs online or go to Walmart or the big stores and buy multiple cans of them. And the next thing you need are leaves. And I think it's, for all the ways we make trees, it's pretty well acknowledged by most people that the Super Tree material and the leaves sold by Super Leaf by Scenic Express really do produce the most airy, realistic looking trees. Now, green is one color. You have various colors of leaves. Here's medium green. I don't think you want the bright green. Olive I use for pines or junipers. And then there's a variety of fall colors. Reds, yellows, and oranges, of course. You also need some matte media, because that's how you're going to preserve the material. And you need a variety of paints. Now, I have discussed with all my friends at Division 1, what is the best color paint to paint tree trunks? You know, that 2/3 gray, 1/3 brown. It's just almost, it's like concrete color. It's almost impossible to duplicate. And the best I've found is Rust-Oleum Camouflage Earth Brown. And this is what a lot of folks around here use, and it's probably the best we can do. Again, I'm looking forward to your ideas. And you'll need a few other colors. You may need some greens to color some types of trees, yellows or reds or light browns if you're going to make fall type trees. Now, tree trunks. Super Tree material. Around here in Texas, we have crepe myrtles. And they produce, when the fall comes and the leaves fall, very ideal looking tree trunks and natural color too. Again, soak those. And there's also Woodland Scenics armatures, which are of modest cost. You know, you certainly don't want this toy stand here. That goes in the trash. cut the stick on the bottom, the little prong on the bottom off. Drill a hole in the base. Here we're drilling a hole here. And then you take a nail from which you've taken the top off, a little super glue on it, put it in there, and you've got a thing that holds your tree trunk. But before you do that, you're going to want to form the tree trunk. And I'll tell you, if you've done 100 of these, you'll share with me the sense of having these sharp points stick into you all over the place. Doing this quickly, but spread out all these prongs as much as you can. Get it as full as you can. Here we go. Turn it 50%, halfway. Again, form the tree trunk. Turn it again. Spread the branches out. We could do a little bit more work, but won't bore you with it. Glue your nail in. This one's without glue. Stick it in your foam. I've also resorted to just plain wood dowels with some puffball tops on them. And look on eBay for the many, many types of trees that you can find at extremely low cost. I'm going to show you some of those. So let's get started making some really nice trees. Here's the way the super tree material comes. You've all seen it. You're going to get a great big, multiple great big portions of tree. We're going to just pop off one piece here. And you're going to want to pull off some of the leaves, these leaves that are in there. This one only has one. I use just a tweezer to pull them off and discard them. Others will have more leaves, and if there are little leaves on the top, don't worry about it. Now, the other thing I want you to do, remember, is never throw anything away. These bottom parts of the tree trunk, just cut them up. These extra leaves that don't fit, just cut them up. And we're going to collect all that loose tree material. Here we go. And how about that for a tree? Let's pull out another branch here. Well, that one's not very good, and there's a leaf in it. Let's pull that out. I've not pre-planned what I'm pulling out here. I'm just pumping stuff out. Now here's more typical of what you're going to get. Some really big leaves. Some you can pull out by hand, but most of them just pull out with a tweezer. And you can do that fairly quickly. This is do it while watching television. And if you were here looking closely, you could see that there are smaller leaves on the top, but we're not going to worry about that. Now let me show you, that's kind of a funny looking tree. We're not going to make a tree out of that. So what we're going to do is add this piece to our pile of clippings. And I just clip along and like most model railroaders, you know, we save everything, every scrap. And this stuff will all come in handy. Let's pull out one more. Now this one is not the world's best tree either, has leaves on it, but this allows me to make another point to you. Notice the trunk is curved. So if I take off these lower ones, because I don't need a tree that's 100 feet tall, and a few of these leaves off, there we go, a few of the bigger ones. Don't worry about the little ones. There's a tree that has a curved trunk. Now, you know, the next thing you do with these things is you soak them in a 7-to-1 mixture of matte media. That's going to preserve it and it won't fall apart over the years of your layout when you're dusting or vacuuming. And you've seen instructions about soaking it and putting a weight on it to straighten it. I'm not that patient and it hasn't really worked for me. And in mountainous scenery, your trees are going to be on hillsides anyway. So what's wrong with putting it in like that and having it grow up? That's the way I look at it. Works perfectly well. Let's take care of these clippings right here. Add them to our pile of clippings. All these leaves go in the trash can. That we do throw away. Now you're going to have you sit for an hour or so, you're going to have 50 trees. That's a lot of trees, a lot of holes. The next thing you do, as I said, is soak them in the matte media, let them dry, and then you want to paint them. So this hasn't been painted. These haven't been soaked. These have been painted. So we're going to try and see how, and now you can see why we're wearing gloves. And we're going to put a box on the table here. There we are. Most important that the trunk get painted. That's the critical part. And there you are. That's a great base for a tree. And here's some other trees. We're only going to paint one for you here. And you let those dry. Now, if you'll hand me that package over there. Okay. You know, when I soak these in matte media, what I do is hang them on a clothesline. Well, who's got clotheslines anymore? So I've got a big heavy wire that I will hook the dog to sometimes, and I hook it out between a couple trees, and I don't know what my neighbors think about these things blowing in the wind, but that's how I get them soaked and cleaned up. Now here's many trees that have been soaked in matte media, preserved in matte media. They've already been painted. And if you were to look closely, you could see a few leaves in that. I promise you that that's not going to be a problem. I'm going to shake this can of spray. And I'm going to get a bowl. And let's see now how this works here. Covered with matte media. Let's put leaves on it. Remember that if you go out and look at a deciduous tree, it's sort of like this bowl inverted. The inside of the tree is hollow, so you add your leaves from the top and the sides, but not underneath. Now that's a pretty good looking tree. on anyone's layout. And I'll tell you what I do. I always put a little bit of plain hairspray on top of it just to hold the loose leaves. Don't know whether it's necessary, but the cost is minimal, and that's an exceptionally good looking tree. It'll have to go on a little bit of a hillside. Let's do another one. How about this one? Now, I hope you can all make the 2023 National Convention and come visit my Virginian layout. And when you do, if my wife's legacy Subaru is still in the garage, just quietly, without telling anyone, rub your hands over the driver's side rear. Because I've learned the hard way that you do this outside with the garage door open. Because I haven't told her yet, and please don't you tell her, that you can feel the spray stuck all over her car. She doesn't know that, but okay. Let's cover this tree with leaves. And how about that? You're going to notice that some trees just look better in one direction than the other, and that's the way you're going to plant them, the good side forward. Now, again, model railroaders save everything. This stuff is not that expensive, but it does cost, and you want to save every leaf you can. So let's put those leaves back into the extra leaves back into the container, because we're going to change color. Let's make a fall colored tree. How about this one? Let's put some spray on it. This tree clearly is going to look better this way than the other way. I can see that now. I have found that the shaker with the larger holes works better. This shaker has the smaller holes, but just gives you good exercise. And there you are. How about that? Again, some If this were a live clinic, I'd hand out some trees. Now we can do one more. Let's do a tree in yellow. Short bursts work well. Yellow leaves. I didn't change the color in this bowl just for expediency, but there's a really nice tree. Okay, let's go back to making trees with different types of armatures. This is the Woodland Scenics armature we had before, and here is our stack of scrap from the Scenic Express material. Again, don't throw anything away. We're going to take our Pro Stick, shake it up well, spraying into the box here. Remember, top and sides. Let's put this on it. I'm not very particular. I just make sure that there's some scattered around and it's spaced. That most of the branches are covered. There we are. That doesn't take long. Then you can paint that if you choose to, or you can again take your Pro Stick spray and your leaves. Covering the top and the sides, but not the bottom. And there you go. How about that for a tree? Again, I spray mine with inexpensive hairspray. You could fix that up a little bit more, but there's another tree. Now that was Woodland Scenics material. I also told you about the crepe myrtles, which we have here in Texas. Here is a crepe myrtle branch with the seed pods off. And again, I'll do the same thing. Spray. Cover with all the scraps that we had here. Doing this quickly and loosely and not trying for perfection. I think Mother Nature looks better on a kind of random basis. Again, let's put some leaves on it. You'll see why I buy these leaves in bulk. I see the branch structure of one of these leaves sticking out here. I'm just going to clip that off later with a pair of scissors or pull it off. You're going to be a little bit more careful as you make your own trees than this hurried approach. But I think that's a fine looking tree. Stick that in the hole in your... Now there's other tree types. This is the forest canopy sold by Woodland Scenics. Again, painted. If you look at the pictures, it looks good. It's a little fragile. I'm not in love with this stuff, but it also works. There are places that it will work and places that it won't. And that's not an unreasonable tree for background purposes. Now remember, the goal is trees for less than $1 and a lot less than $1 if possible. So for example, look on eBay and you'll find such things as multiple types of trees imported from China or elsewhere. Here are 50, 60 trees of that look like more Western, but yeah, they're bottle brush trees. You might not want to put that on your layout. And I might comment on these small trees. Small trees have two purposes. One, they go in the far back. And if you look back there, we'll try to get some close-ups later. Gives you the sense of dimension and distance. And the other thing you do is put these in the front because they're small, early trees. So here's a tiny tree. Not sure you'd be pleased with that on your layout unless it was far back. It's just kind of a bottle brush. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of this adhesive spray on it. And I'm going to put olive green on this one. And seal it a little bit with, and how about that? That's a good looking tree for a, that's one type I've found. Here's a box of 120 trees at less than 50 cents a tree. Tons of trees like that. Here's one I've pulled out. Again, that would look good on your Lionel layout, or it's not the world's fanciest tree. You look through, you can see the plastic armature. But we can fix that tree up to really be acceptable. Particularly when you, here I do try to get some spray into the crevices. Get our medium green. And these trees too, sometimes they look much better from one direction than the other, but there you are. And you can make a lot of those trees, particularly if you're outside, the door open, don't get this spray on your wife's car. Maybe the radio playing, dog out there with you, you can make a lot of trees. Now let's say here's another variety of these trees. That's even more toy-like. Almost looks like a pine tree trunk on a funny looking bark on a, but it works fine. You're not going to put it right in front of your prized scratch-built structure, but when you're trying to cover a hillside, with hundreds of trees, there you are. That looks perfectly acceptable, I think. More than that. Now, you want to have trees of different colors. So you take these trees. Here's a perfect example of one that would fit better that way than that big crevice there. And you paint it. You can paint it, come on out of there, a fall color. You can paint it yellow. Let's do this one in yellow. Get our yellow leaves out. Well, this one's actually all been covered already. But let's make another one. Here's a green tree that I painted with just yellow spray. Add some leaves. And you know, just in a few minutes of this video, we're making ourselves quite a fall hillside. How about that? Some of the trees you buy look kind of funny. I mean, here's a two-tone tree. That's kind of ridiculous. So that's where you spray with your green spray and cover with leaves. Here we'll give you a little bit more close-up shot. Here's a tree with a crook in the top. And let me tell you one thing you can simply do when you see this. You can always break this off and get two trees out of it. So let's make one smaller tree here. add our leaves. Little bit of hairspray. Tweezer to hold it. There you go. Now remember, model railroaders don't throw away anything. Look at my gloves, they're covered with leaf and glue. Peel this stuff off and save it. And put it down on a piece of foam, because by the end of making many, many trees, you'll have a lot of those things, and they make perfect foreground bushes. Here's the other half of our tree. Add leaves. Spray with hairspray, holds any loose leaves in the top. And we've gone a long way towards already making a fall covered hillside. When you buy those packages of trees, you're going to get a lot of little tiny things. As I said, they're perfectly acceptable too. Spray that. Cover it with leaves to make it look a whole lot more realistic. Little spray, and now you've got an excellent background tree or maybe a foreground bush. Another source of trees are this JTT product. They market them as wire foliage branches. Here's regular green, and these are fall colors. 60 of them for $8 is what I paid. And these are excellent with a little extra leaf on them. Excellent foreground and background trees. So I hope you've seen that making trees is not really that complex. It can be done quickly. Just to show you again, don't forget the advantages of stone or cliffs on hillsides, whether it's real stuff or around here we have a lot of limestone that can be used. Some foam. Here's foam with the trees we've already made, and some gloves. Buy yourself a box of gloves. Super tree material. There's the back side of it. Front side, you can see there's probably 100 trees in that material. Save every scrap of that super tree material. I prefer this product that you get from Scenic Express. Others may be equally as good. I also get some cheap hairspray, get some leaves of different colors, and don't ignore trees that come in from overseas or in the United States for that matter. Here's another box of tons and tons of trees at pennies a piece. So trees are not that difficult. Here's a rack of many, many trees that I roll around the railroad, and this is about half of what I have prepared over several afternoons and are now installing on the layout. So Appalachian scenery, even in the fall, is possible, as some of these scenes from my O-scale Virginian layout will show. We're looking forward to having more of the scenery done by the time you all get to visit us for the National in 2023. And you're welcome to come visit before that. I'd encourage you to wear old dirty clothes, and I'll put you to work making trees and planting trees. Right now you're looking at one of the earliest areas I did. I think subsequent areas are a little better detailed. Hope you've enjoyed this brief visit to the Virginian Railway that's being rebuilt through the Appalachians in O scale.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Michael, that was a great presentation. I know from fact that my club has over 5,000 conifer trees that were either purchased or made, and it's amazing how fast you can put these things together. Some of the not a lot of questions, a lot of comments, which was kind of interesting, and simple comments like, and I know from experience, especially using spray paint inside the clubhouse, you really want to try and do this outside if you can.
That's what I said. I do it all outside in the garage.
It's amazing what a can of Rust-Oleum paint does inside an 80 by 30 square foot or 30-foot building. Another thing was one of the comments was that you can purchase from Dollar General totally awesome cleaner, and that will take the overspray off your wife's car.
Yeah, I chose everything you and Gordy to do to keep me here. I was going to run out and buy some.
Sort of a question. It was a comment or a question. I couldn't tell, but I thought it was interesting. What size leaves or the foam that you use to? Is there a specific size based on scale for, or is it a fine, medium? What do you use basically?
They only sell one size, and the individual pieces are a millimeter or so. And in O scale, it looks great. I'm sure it would look good for smaller scales too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have here. A lot of people were talking about the matte medium. Some people were talking, and the adhesive for spraying. Some people were talking about using hairspray. It's amazing what's on the chat as far as different comments about the mediums. One person commented about the spray adhesives sometimes tend to fall off or over a period of time, so hairspray works better.
I'll let you know. There's 1,000 ways to make trees. I'm here to learn too. One thing I would say to people is look everywhere you can for different armatures. Next time you're out in the pet store buying dog food, go to the aquarium aisle. There's all sorts of neat plants that you can just cover. And at the train shows, I pick up all sorts of stuff, everything I can that looks like a tree, and it's cheap. Use it as a base.
Okay. Someone asked, what is the super tree material?
Well, if you ask Jim at Scenic Express, I think he's a little hesitant, but it's some sort of moss that grows up in Gordy's part, maybe even further north than where Gordy lives in Scandinavia. It's reindeer moss or something like that. And so we pay a good price for the Scandinavian weeds, but in terms of making an open, airy tree that you can see through, it's probably the best that's out there. And I've not had problems with that particular brand of spray that they market with any of the leaves falling off in years.
Okay, one person just commented and said that he uses a matte medium to soak the super trees, and that keeps them pliable and last longer.
Exactly. 7-to-1, probably signed on partway through. They recommend 7-to-1 mixture. I have a sort of a clothesline thing I string out over the driveway, and I soak them for 2 or 3 trees for several minutes, go out and hang them up with clothespins and let them dry in the sun. And I don't worry, as I commented about the tips bending. It's just more effort than it's worth to me to try to straighten them. Just either cut them off and make another tree, or plant the tree on a hillside so it goes up that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you have to do that.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again, Michael, for the presentation. It was very informative.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I really enjoyed it. It gave me a lot of ideas for my own layout because I'm more used to doing the conifer trees, and now I got to deal with my layout is all deciduous, so it's kind of a neat way to go to the next level. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll sign off.